York's classic rock, Q1043.
Good morning and welcoming back Lisa Orloff of worldcares.org and also a member of our iHeartMedia Lab, which is our local advisory board. And we recently held our second meeting virtually, as that is the world we live in these days. Okay, Lisa. Oh, there you are. I thought you disappeared from the screen for a second.
Here I am.
Okay,
Here
first, let's refresh the memory of our audience, how worldcares.org came to be and what it is exactly that you do, because the need has actually intensified in our times.
Yes, it is very odd to be here again, actually. World Care Center was started during the 9/11 relief effort, and it was founded by just average citizens who came out to help during the effort, during the cleanup effort. And while there was a tremendous outpouring of support and people doing wonderful things, there was a lack of training, connectivity, and coordination. And we saw not only citizens and of course our first responders, as you well know, Shelley, getting sick because of the work that they did and the lack of training for this kind of catastrophic disaster. And here we are again with a new catastrophic pandemic, and we are still struggling with the new normal of it, the new normal of how it spreads, how to protect ourselves, what mask to use, how to wear it properly, what are the guidelines. So here we are almost 20 years later, and even though the situation is very, very different, we're doing the same type of thing. We're training our first responders, we're training our volunteers, and we're providing personal protective equipment.
This is going on all over the country?
This is going on all over the country because our trainings are online. They're virtual and they're free of charge. And in some cases, while the majority of our work is concentrated in the 5 boroughs and in New Jersey as well, we do have people from around the country logging in, taking our training, and asking us to ship them personal protective equipment. So right now in New Orleans, we are shipping out relief supplies and personal protective equipment because now they're actually responding to what we refer to as a complex disaster response, right? So it's a combination of COVID-19 and the hurricane. In California, it's COVID-19 and the wildfires. So while we are focused, I'd say 75% of our time here in our backyard, we do support all over the country and in some cases all over the world.
Are you finding, since you are connecting with first responders and frontliners, are you finding shortages of PPEs?
Absolutely. And weeks post, realizing that this is a catastrophic pandemic, there was a shortage of N95 respirators. And we were extremely fortunate. We have something called the Boots on the Ground exercise, which happens annually and brings together hundreds of individuals to physically practice the response skills that they learned from us year round. And so we had N95 respirators, Tyvek suits, gloves, and the equipment needed in our warehouse. And one of the benefits of being a small and nimble organization is we made the decision to distribute what we had within hours. It was a no-brainer. We decided we have it. There's no need to stockpile it. We're going to be distributing it. And we were setting up a distribution, a COVID-19 safe distribution. And also then we were distributing it door to door to hospitals, to firehouses, to disaster volunteer centers, along with our training.
What are you hearing from the first responders that you're in touch with in terms of everyday people wearing masks or the lack thereof? Because I'm seeing a big disparity. When I'm in Manhattan, everyone is masked up. And in New Jersey, down the shore, not so much so at all over the summer, which came as a shock to me.
Yeah. Um, what I'm hearing, what I'm seeing, varies greatly. You know, we are, I think we're a community of you know, we're a strong community, right? We're a strong personality as Americans, I think. And um, I am very, very, very proud of the way that Manhattan is complying to the standards for the most part. And there are some people that have, unfortunately, are very thinking very selfishly, you know, and they, you know, want to wave around their constitutional rights. But with constitutional rights come an obligation to those that help us, you know, uphold the Constitution. So we do run across people that say that it's their right not to wear a mask. And, you know, I think that that's frustrating for our responders. We call them ready responders. They're not only, you know, our EMTs, our firefighters, and our police officers, but they're also our disaster volunteers that choose to take their time to help others. And I think it's very disrespectful to them. You know, we're out there and we're helping and we're trying to keep our community safe. And we all need to do our part. And it's not a matter of taking away your constitutional right. It's more a matter of reaching beyond yourself and making sure that you're doing all that you can to contribute to the safety of our society.
I'm speaking to Lisa Orloff. She is the founder of worldcares.org, which came into being after 9/11, when so many of our first responders didn't have the protection they needed to prevent the illnesses, basically, which are now killing our hero first responders. And here we are in another situation where, again, the mask has become an essential to help protect the lives of the first responders, but also of everyone. So if moving forward, I don't know how much you're involved in this, but moving forward, if we have a second wave, I mean, cases are increasing anyway. We're still in the first wave, but what are you hearing about I'll never forget, you know, the New York Post picture of the hospital workers in Manhattan wearing garbage bags as protection early on in COVID. If we have a second wave, if we have the hospitals overwhelmed again, are our healthcare workers going to have the protection they need?
So I want to take one step backwards, Shelley. We're out there right now distributing face coverings. You know, our program's associate Michael is out on Staten Island right now delivering facial coverings across Staten Island, and we'll do this for each borough to make sure that people have the face coverings, right? And so it's all about preparedness and being vigilant and continuity of this new normal of being protective. If there is a surge, I believe we'll be challenged again. What we're doing right now is looking at, for our disaster volunteers and for our responder community, moving away from the disposable N95 respirator that is such, you know, becomes such an issue, and moving towards non-disposable half-face respirators that they will keep and they last for years, and the cartridges simply need to be replaced. So it's not only focused on just the N95 respirator, it's focused on changing how we look at protecting our frontline workers and volunteers. You know, if the N95 respirator is not available, what are our options? Do we start to have to use more robust non-disposable protection that require a bit more training and a bit more maintenance and care? If COVID-19 and these types of pandemics become the new norm, and we have a shortage of the right equipment to protect our responders, what are our other options, just more than just going back to the disposable N95?
This also sounds a lot more expensive.
Not necessarily.
Oh.
I mean, if you look at the cost of an N95 respirator right now, and the fact and how many we're going through, that they're disposable, and then you look at the cost of a half-face respirator, over time, it can be less expensive. It just requires for people to be fit tested and to be trained on not only how to use it, but to decontaminate it properly and store it properly, rather than just, taking it off and throwing it away.
So are there actual efforts underway to make this switch, perhaps with the FDNY and the NYPD and at hospitals?
I can't speak to, would never assume to know, and what the regulations of FDNY and NYPD and the hospitals are. We are part of the National Institute of Health working group, and we represent, our constituents, our disaster volunteers, our grassroots organizations, and there are discussions with the subject matter expert that this is a good thing to start to think about. World Care Center has started to think about this, and we actually have these respirators for disaster volunteers that may be responding to, again, what we're calling a complex disaster response or a compounded disaster response, where they have to consider responding to, say, flooding or evacuation within a COVID-19 environment. And we, in our training, are suggesting and encouraging people to look at these alternate solutions.
Every year I look forward to your fundraiser. It's basically a firefighter restaurant cook-off to raise funds for worldcares.org. Of course, this year things are looking different, so why don't you tell us what you're doing?
Yes, thanks, Shelley. And you've always supported that. You've always promoted it. It's great. And, I know in your heart, you're there to protect our first responder community. The work that you've done is amazing. Our Iron Skillet Cook-Off this year is virtual. The firefighters, it's 5 firehouse chefs, and this year we have them working with Master Chef Michael Ayub of Fornino. And we did all of the cooking, the competing portion of the event on the rooftop of Fornino Pier 6, socially distanced, COVID-19 compliant, taking 5 firehouse chefs with their favorite dish, and Chef Michael was with them, coaching them, taking it up a notch. And on October 26th at 6 p.m., on World Care Center's website, worldcares.org/ISCO, ISCO. That's worldcares.org/IC. Excuse me, that's worldcares.org/ISCO. Will be airing the competition at 6 p.m. We'll watch our firefighters cook. We'll see Chef Michael tasting the dishes. And we have a voting structure where the general public can vote on what's the best story, what's the best visual on the dish, who has the best cooking technique, and who has the dish that they're most likely to cook at home. So the audience is going to decide who the winner is. And it's very exciting. We have a firefighter from each borough, and that includes Brian Anderson from Engine 247, representing Brooklyn, and his sponsor is Brooklyn Brewery. He's making lamb chops with a creamy mustard sauce. We have Ron Venner of Bronx, Engine 42, sponsored by Barish and McGarry, and he's making a yummy roasted chicken thigh risotto. We have from Manhattan, firefighter Jose Cruz making a maple soy sauce salmon over asparagus, and he again is from Manhattan, and he is supported by Sugar and the Roth. We have Laz, or Peter Lazarchuk, and he is representing Queens, sponsored by Cordoza Plumbing, and he's making a stuffed pork roll with a Madeira cream sauce. And lastly, we have from Staten Island, Ocean Hook and Ladder number 1, firefighter Robert Coughlin, making a chimichurri steak. And he's supported by GFP Real Estate. And I had an opportunity to taste all of these yummy dishes. They're all paired with craft beers from Brooklyn Brewery, and it's fantastic dishes. The quality and commitment remains the same. It's just virtual. And I think, you know, this is
I'm gonna have to cut you off because we are out of time, Lisa Orloff, but go to worldcares.org on the 26th, starting at 6 p.m. to participate and salivate. And thank you, Lisa Orloff, Q104.3.
New York's classic rock, Q104.3.